Good morning or good afternoon to you wherever you are and whatever you may be doing. Welcome back to another piece of advice. I hope you're having a peaceful day so far. And if not, I believe this can help. I want to explore the idea of the passenger. And I'll get into it, but that's the focus of today's episode. It's about how much responsibility do we bear with our mind and how we can make things easier for us with a mindset tweak or a mindset change. So let's get into it. A common misconception I've seen, or I've at least noticed in myself, because I don't want to make generalizations about anything, but in myself at least, is that, and people that I talk to, we think we can think our way out of thoughts, right? Now, in some cases, we can turn, negatives into positives. And in other cases, unfortunately, we tend to turn positives into negatives. We overthink certain things. Essentially, we can influence the nature of certain thoughts to become more of a positive into a more positive nature, right? I've mentioned previously how we can deconstruct pessimism and other negative thoughts. So we can do that, but we don't always have to. You don't always have to be the captain of your ship all the time. You can be a passenger, observing as thoughts pass by. And so here's how I play around with that idea or that notion. And so I like to think of thoughts like clouds, and as I say that, I'm looking outside and there's a million clouds going past and they're all different colors and it's a very stormy, windy day, right? So I like to think of thoughts like clouds. Clouds, they pass by day. Naturally, we've been conditioned and we've grown to just subconsciously acknowledge clouds as clouds. They're just that. We may see them and anticipate a rain or a storm, but we rarely ever go into panic mode when we see clouds, right? We see thousands of clouds pass by every day, and again, we rarely ever think anything from them. Now imagine if this was the same with anxiety, depression, and our mental health in general. Well, I think it's possible. Let's say you see a single white cloud from your window. You're not going to freak out, storm a meteorologist's office and demand them to do something about the cloud, right? That's ridiculous. And then on the other hand, you're not going to stay inside all day just because you saw that cloud, are you? No, of course not. So why do we do the same thing with our thoughts? Why do we do the same with our anxiety, our depression? More of a rhetorical question, that is. But I guess we believe these things to be us, or to be a representation of us, instead of them being something that is just passing through us, right? So to this physical cloud that you see in a real life situation, you most likely react or respond to it with silent thought or subconsciously with, oh, there's a cloud, okay. That's all, right? That's all you're really going to react to it. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll notice I chose a rainy day to get some nature footage for this video. And yes, it looks gloomy and miserable in this environment, but just like the gloomy, miserable thoughts in my environment, in your environment, in our head, there's no need to panic or believe these thoughts are as powerful as they seem. If I keep this video rolling after a certain amount of time, an immeasurable amount of time, but after a certain amount of time, the same clouds that are raining down and stormy and all the wind that's happening, those clouds will clear up and the sun will start to show. The weather will be warmer, the wind will have calmed down. So that's another thing to consider. To trust in things getting better over time. There's no measurement I can guarantee you, but it always does get better. The weather always does clear up And again, you can't guarantee for how long it's going to stay cleared up, but it's going to clear up. And while you're in while the rain is falling around you, you got to remember that you are not in as much danger as you think, because you've been in this situation time and time before with little to no negative consequences suffered. Like I mentioned in a recent interview, Zach's story. That was a great talk I had with Zach about gradual exposure therapy. It's basically the idea that the more you are exposed to a feared situation, the sooner you realize the threat of danger isn't danger after all. Like, it isn't as bad as you thought it was. It's like a fear of the unknown. I guess anxiety is a fear of the unknown until it's known, and then it's not a fear anymore. It's just a task or an event that you're able to complete or address. And like, you've been surrounded by rain and thunder before, and chances are you've been safe from its effects, right? And like, I know it's not as easy as just saying it here or just proclaiming it, right? But from a very young age, there's things you've been conditioned to accept as safe events or tasks. And these are what you can naturally attend or address without thinking about them, because subconsciously your mind knows there is no danger. And then on the flip side, from a very young age, there's things you've been conditioned to believe were dangerous / risky events or tasks. In order to remove the perceived danger from these events and tasks, we should be, well, 1, gradually exposed to these events and tasks, and this will help prove to ourselves of their safety. And then 2, we should be acting as the passenger when these negative thoughts are drifting in and out. Because remember, we are not responsible for the burden and the management of every single thought that enters our heads. That is unfair, and it's just not fair on us as human beings. We're human beings, remember, at the end of the day. We can be vulnerable, and that is our strength. So, I guess moving forward, try to observe and acknowledge your thoughts more instead of trying to just manage them and solve them like a captain would. Let's say a thought comes into your sphere. It's a thought of insecurity. And just like you respond to a cloud and you say, oh, okay, there's a thought, cool, right? You can do the same thing to this thought. Oh, there's a thought, okay, cool. There's no need to deconstruct every thought that comes into your head. Think of yourself as the passenger on the ship, and the ship is your body. You are not responsible for every thought that enters your head. That is no way to live, and you deserve better than that. And so I hope this was comforting and helpful for you in some way. I definitely want to explore this topic even more, but I wanted to put this out there to get you thinking about what you manage in your head, because chances are you manage every single thing that comes into your head, and that's no way to live. And this coming from me, I do the same. I totally get where you're coming from, right? We think we have to be in charge of everything that comes through us, right? But that's okay. We don't have to. We can learn to be the passenger. And so, yeah, I guess I hope this was comforting and helpful, and not just with what I explored, what I brainstormed, but also the scenery you see as you're watching, Yeah, it's gloomy, it's miserable, but the aim of the scenery in the background is for you to become immersed in this piece of advice. Not only through my voice, but also in the nature shots in the background. There's a certain comfort that I find in the rain and wind, and hopefully you feel the same with any of the other nature imagery that I bring into these pieces of advices. Through the turmoil, we can be calm, balanced, And like a passenger, we are just observant. As thoughts go by, we are just observing them. So yeah, thank you for listening in. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll see you next time.